Alright, and welcome back to another episode of Universal Deutschland. Today we are continuing work on our Wizarding America land, as well as you'll see just some kind of editing around the park as a whole. I do have Wizarding America now actually in this file with Dorf der Toten, but what you're about to see me do is remove Dorf der Toten. I'm going to be saving the park in multiple save files because, at least at this time, my computer can't handle it. I did find some techniques that helped the frame rate a lot, like for some reason having those little cars on the highway, even though they weren't running, they were costing me about 20-30 frames. So objects that have rides that have objects attached to them obviously aren't a good choice, and we're going to be trying to minimize that in the future through the means of just modding in the coaster cars to look how we want them to. This does, however, mean we can't really put this on the workshop as easily, but it wasn't going on the workshop really anyways because of the other modded elements. I mean, as you may have seen in a little bit of Wizarding America, I do have some modded scenery pieces that would prevent the save file from loading. But here I am trying to get Wizarding America put all the way in. Game crashed a few times because it's just too many objects for my computer to load and set the movement of. So I ended up coming through and making two parts of it. This first half, which there's another crash. This first half, which is just the Wizarding America side, and then the second half, which is the rest of the ride and back area. Excuse me. But I didn't want to record all that, so I didn't. It's just big jump, don't worry about it. We're going to be jumping a few times because there was a lot of content I just needed to add in on my own time. I didn't want to set up OBS and do all that stuff. But I try my best to get in some segments of it, but it's not all going to be there. Right now we're just editing the Quidditch field at the end of the ride because I did want to bring up that we are keeping it actually in the UK for the broomstick coaster. I had originally said I was going to do a Germany or something, some other wizarding part of the world. That way I could have, because I couldn't get the Hogwarts castle. You'll see later in the episode, I do actually have a Hogwarts castle. We got this from the workshop. I'll of course credit the wonderful creator who put this together. And then I do some fancy stuff to it. But for now, you can see we're just kind of editing this area, putting in the, what I like to call green walls, just walls with a little bit of foliage on them, background green, so it really just helps block off what I don't want to be visible to riders. Like adding in this banner here because I didn't want it to be visible and I thought this would work. This, I don't believe, ended up being my final solution because of the trees and all that right there. Taking a quick peek around my park, there's the big cut. This is the castle. Credit should be on screen now. I hope I did that. I'm kind of recording this a bit to and after. I've got some cuts in my audio as well. But the Hogwarts castle here, I cut out the backside, as you see. I'm kind of doing more of right here to make it a facade. Only the parts that need to be built are built. It's going to rest on top of this big concrete slab. But, of course, I'll be going through and putting support structures in it and all that because I want it to be realistic. So I'm just kind of trying all the different angles from the ride to see what's really actually needed there, you know, what can be skipped. And then getting the little details away because while this castle is beautiful and it's pretty cheap piece-wise, I was already struggling with my frame rate and I still need to get a computer upgrade before I can really push every little detail in the park. Adjusting my terrain because I wanted the backside to actually be flat on here to be a bit more realistic. You wouldn't have all that water with the support structure. So I keep adding in the different lakes. Trying to set up just the angle that I think looks good for the waterfront. Because I want that real feel of what you see in the movies or on the Hogwarts Express train at Islands of Adventure. You see just that big, vast water in front of the castle. While this isn't vast water, it is definitely enough to kind of sell the effect. coming in with more rock work. I kind of struggled with this part for a bit because I wanted to have a nice backing that really sold the theme, but I didn't want to adjust my pixie scene, which is that little pumpkin patch next to it, too much. It just didn't feel right to go through and change that just because this theme was changing back here. There goes in that concrete slab. I'm using the path tool to actually do this along with other roofs in the park, because while it does have a little bit of light bleed, it is a very easy way to do any shaped roof you need. Something I rarely do on this channel so far, I'm actually editing the coaster's track in the video. I didn't like the little hop I had before for the boost or the tire track. It didn't quite feel real enough with the timing I was trying to get with the rest of the ride's block sections. So I came back through. I do redo this a couple times just because of the G-forces on it. I am quite happy with where the forces sit now. The lateral G's max out at 1.2, which I'm not too stressed out about for this ride. And then the vertical G-forces max out at 3.9, but that's only for about half a second at most. The rest of the ride stays within the free G limit. Right now what I'm building is just a little, kind of like supposed to be boat dock, but smaller, you know, just a little detail to hide the launch track, have it be a bit more fun to play with, have the lighting be able to be better through here as well. And then I come in, I realize I need, just like the rest of the ride has, a proper evac route. You know, you get stopped on the launch track, you're gonna have to get back to the main park somehow. So I decided to cut into the rock face here that has the team member backlot behind it, and just put in a little wall with a door, kind of try to color match a little bit to help hide it, but it's not noticeable on ride, and when you do look at it from off-ride, it really helps sell the effect. Additionally, that path obviously doesn't do anything, but it's there to just kind of really push the realism of it. Because this ride is no longer constrained into a really tight area, I was able to expand the backlot there. And I also decided I wanted to expand our little seating area's path, because, oh, I guess I just labeled it. That's what that is. That's a little seating area. And there's another big cut. This one is an exciting one for me. Because I'm really proud of the idea. I wanted this castle in the back for the ride, and I couldn't bring it into my own head that Universal would pay to build a whole facade like that again, for it to be only visible for a couple seconds on the ride. Obviously, the real Hogwarts castle got built because it's visible from the land, and it has a lot of adding to that land's set value and photo opportunities. Here, you can't see it from anywhere because of how the ride is built, and I can't easily get you to it because of how the land is built. However, along adding this path and the tree line, I realized I could get you there through a little bridge, and I could have it be under the castle, a grand hall type dining situation. Think of things like Beauty and the Beast. I think it's the Be Our Guest restaurant at Magic Kingdom. It looks like it's up in the castle, you walk into the rock wall, and then down a little hallway, and there you are. So that's going to be the idea for our area, is the queuing that you would experience at a restaurant in the newer Universal Parks is done just inside that bridge, inside the rock work, and I'll use the queue to help sell the effect that you're actually like going up a ramp into the castle rather than just staying on the flat level. The kind of idea that I really shot for when doing the concepting and whatnot is that if you think of the free broomsticks restaurant at Islands of Adventure, it's right there, and it's very busy, so they have just a lot of seats. Well, I'm thinking just quite literally a nice long row of benches separated by a little gap between the tables for some personal space on the bench. But I really want to sell the effect of eating in the Grand Hall, or whatever that room's called. I always forget, where they have their feast at the beginning and end of the year. I think if I can sell that effect with candles, you know, floating on a fishing line, and perhaps doing a screened ceiling to do the bewitching effect, we could do that. They did a similar thing at the Ministry of Magic at Epic Universe. The sky is actually just a big projection, and so it looks like there's, the clouds and the lightning and all that. Isn't terribly impressive if you look at it for too long, so we might do something a little fancier. Perhaps maybe we can fake a layer of glass that has fog pumped through it to mimic clouds. I don't know how realistic that would be. I'd have to do some research on if there's anything like that out there in the world already. More track editing, and this actually is me starting to add the secondary station. The coaster is built so that there are two stations, load and unload, or two of the unload and two of the loads. This is kind of think Big Thunder Mountain, think Battle at the Ministry, think not Space Mountain, that's the wrong one. But anyways, this dual-sided, and how I achieved it was I have the two rides set up so that their block sections are opposite on the final brake run, that way they don't spawn overlapped, and then I have it so that it is timed to work appropriately, and we'll go a bit more into that in the real time. I'll probably even show off how it works with the timing and how it looks with the ride actually just kind of going through the route. Right now we're continuing the queue, specifically working on the locker area as well as the pre-show room. Little trick I'm doing here, I actually have a bit of path raised above the other path hidden in that block, and I'm just getting the staff member to face the direction I want, because once I place them on that path, as it doesn't connect to anything, they won't path, they won't rotate, they won't do anything. So it's just kind of a nice way to lock them in place without having to do the moving them as soon as you go to place, or changing their schedule as soon as you place them down. But yeah, the pre-show. So what's going on with it being back in, I said London earlier, I meant the United Kingdom. I'm pretty sure Hogwarts itself is in Scotland. But with it being in the United Kingdom, we are going to be going back to really hitting that theme of Hogwarts. And part of that is something I noticed while playing Hogwarts Legacy and looking up some stuff online. There's a lot of other little castles, villages, and ruins around Hogwarts. It's not just Hogwarts and Hogsmeade, there's stuff going on out there. So my idea is that where you're queuing and where you're boarding your broom is actually a secondary little place where Newt Scamander has been told to teach the Beast class. It's not too far from Hogwarts to feel out of the way, but it is kinda just enough for me to design it how I can and how I feel fit, rather than trying to do another full-size Hogwarts. Testing our pre-show count here. Each of these groups is 5 guests, 4 adults, 1 child, and that gives us 105 guests comfortably per pre-show, which is really good for our guest throughput, which currently with both stations sits at 1,800 plus guests an hour, and our locker situation. Lockers are going to act like they do on Velocicoaster or Monsters Unchained, where you get on, or you get a ticket, and then, or in Monsters Unchained's case, you get your face scanned, you go ride the ride, you get your stuff from the other side of the locker through the exit. I think that was shown off a little bit in the last episode, but we can also look more at it today. Here I'm just adjusting the path. I wanted to do a fancy little thing off to the side in a moment here. I ended up liking the outcome, but not wanting to do it that way because of how small it was. I might come back and do something similar now that I remember the conforming tool exists, but yeah. Again, more of the green walls and little blue tinted tops to simulate that forest and sky before we come in to do some custom supporting. I don't know if my custom supports are entirely accurate. I looked at a bunch of Intamin rides, primarily Hagrid's Magical Creature Motorbike Adventure at Islands of Adventure, to reference the supports, because this is an Intamin product. I would expect the supports to be similar. Ultimately, I did have to do some fudging, just looking at it and hoping it worked, but you'll see little pauses here as I work on the supports. That's just me going to cross-reference. What's going on with those supports, and they'll get updated in a minute along with this one as well, is I'm going to pretend that the rest of the support and the foundation is on the other side of the rock work, because I don't want to build it if it's not going to be visible. It's not going to be visible inside because it's going to be behind the Grand Hall Dining, and it's not going to be visible outside because of the rocks themselves. So I'm not going to waste my computer's time to actually have those there. And then, again, with the supports, if you have some tips on them, let me know. I'm building these by hand. I do have Scenery Anarchy installed. I should have used it. I forgot the keybind. But I don't mind building them the tedious way because it's just kind of a little bit of brain off activity. I can think, okay, I need to go I need to go set up the supports. I might as well just, put on some music, chill out, and work on it for an hour or so. Which is about how long this footage was in the time lapse. So it works out well. There's the updating of that support to kind of cross tie and meet at the section to maybe mimic that little V shape you see, or triangle shape getting formed with the horizontal instead of vertical like these are. But that is coming up on the end of our time-lapse today. I've really enjoyed making this, so I will talk to you guys more about it in the real time in just a moment. Alright, and real time. So, what we got today, we have a lot of stuff to go over, but first I want to show off this. This is Dorf der Toten's stripped down version. So you can see there's still some stuff here that doesn't need to be, but the primary stuff that I left was the roofs and some of the big walls. That way I can tell still what the shape of it is from the other lands. This is a process we're going to be continuing with going forward for all the lands, but only for what can be seen from where it needs to be seen. Ideally, you should not be able to see any of the lands from other lands, and you should not be able to see any of the lands from within our central land. If that doesn't work, obviously I will allow some things to be pulled over because there's already some possible exceptions. For example, right up here on Dorf der Toten, we're gonna have to have some sort of building to help hide this. But if the roof shows, I'm not gonna be too upset because it's supposed to be a German village. That's a castle, kind of works. But then what we have is some minor adjustments over in Wizarding America. Not even too worth checking out. Some thoughts going from my head. I still haven't connected to the path because I'm trying to figure out how I want to. Part of me wants to connect it through a tunnel here, but I don't want a direct connection to the main path, so I may have it connect here and then go through the tunnel, or have it still come out through a little subway station or something right here. Not fully sure. So if you have any suggestions on that, please leave them below. I'd love to know. But as I said in the time-lapse, we are now staying in the UK with the actual broomstick coaster side. Speaking of the broomstick coaster, let's actually get it running so you guys can start to see some of the changes and whatnot with the track and how the system as a whole works. So what I do is these coasters are not actually linked via the coaster link, because then they would dispatch at the same time, and I don't want that. Instead, what we do is we turn this coaster on, and then we head down to our ride's staff area, where we have our controls room. Controls has this fancy monitor here. Now, this is an old version, that's why the texture is the wrong track layout. You'll notice this part is supposed to be where Hogwarts is, that part of the track's not there, and this section here is also different. I'll have some stuff to show off about that as well. But what we do is we start it up, and I'm going to speed it up because I've gotten used to this ride. But I leave it selected just so I can see that to know when to unspeed it up. But the important thing is this light. See, what happens is when this light turns purple, I know to start spamming my pause button so that as soon as this light turns green, I can click on the other ride, and I can click start. Now, that's how this whole kind of thing works. You can see there's a bunch of color coordinated list because all these lights, once I reselect them all, because saving the blueprint with triggers doesn't seem to work right now, it just sets them all as unknown. I have access to making the screen look as if it's actually reading the coaster for block zone information. But now that I have started this one up, I can press the play button, and you'll see now this guy goes out. He doesn't, but someone new will come in, and then in about 17.5 seconds, this guy will go out. And I say 17.5 because the ride is set to have a forced dispatch every 35 seconds, so long as we're doing good on our timing. I've said in a realistic world, that says 50. That's weird. I don't know why that says 50. I'll have to check that on my own time because it takes a lot to check it. But anyways, there it goes. So you'll see now it goes out, and that one's still here. And it was just after this guy had gone past through the window. We can watch that again if we sit right here. You can actually just click on this guy so we can see him through the walls. Now, as this guy starts to leave the section, he's going to go down right where the screen started to flash purple last time around. You'll see there's the green. So in just a moment here, this guy goes. This allows all of it to sync and flow appropriately without it appearing as if the block zones are actually being mismanaged. For those who don't know, block zones simply state when a coaster comes through it, don't let any other cars into the track because until it's on the next section of track, we may not be safe to go in. So what I have is several launch tracks that are being used as block sections, as well as three full stop sections. How that works is if we come in here, actually, we can see, here's our first full stop show element section. This guy stops, and because he stopped here, the only places that are allowed to leave is this station, because he can stop right on the edge of the switch track, which obviously we can't actually link two coasters to the same track, so as I said, they're just built on top of each other. You can see how that looks melded there. I will be switching these to an invisible track piece, as you'll see at the later end of the ride I've already done. Here, so this guy is just waiting. He's at his show thing. There will be a thing going on here. I just haven't rehooked up all the event sequencers again. Once he comes out of here, however, there's this launch track here, which acts as another block section saying not only is this zone clear, but also this zone. However, it puts it into what I've defined as white, once it reaches down here. White means that there's something in the block zone, but it's past the rollback. Rollback is the furthest point into a track that a coaster can, say, run out of energy and then roll back down the track and get all the way to its last block section. In this case, the rollback is right about down here because all of this track is too high, or is not high enough to get back over this, even if you start it from zero. You'd kind of swoop down, come up, and then swoop back down. The ride is built very intentionally to help min-max these areas so that we can have a lot of throughput. So as we swoop in through this bend here, we are coming into our second full stop scene, where we'll have some sort of animatronic. I've not fully decided yet. It does have a sliding door with a smoke effect. Again, not all hooked up, but the block zones in here go as follow. We have our guys in this section, which is a block zone because the coaster can stop and continue. And then we have a brake stop zone. What this says is if someone comes through here and you're still in there, you have to stop here. It's going to be abrupt, but it's pretty slow coming out of this bend, about 20 miles an hour at most, so it's not really of concern. Following, another launch, more boost or more block sections, but this is our new section. Redesigned off of what I had before, which was very big and caused this path not to be able to exist. Now is a lot more compact, a lot more fun. So the car comes right on up. and then swoops through this kind of old abandoned ruined structure where, again, only what needs to be built is built before we come down into our section where we've updated all the fun to the ride. The new section we built in today's episode, I love it. The supports are gorgeous to look at, and they're gorgeous on ride, even though you don't even really have to notice them unless you're looking for them. The boat ramp looks great both at day and at night time. Shifted to about 10 p.m. here, let the lights catch up. And you can see, just spectacular, with a wonderful little bounce into our pumpkin patch section. Lighting like this will also be coming over here, and the castle itself is going to be lit from the ground up with lots of blues, purples, and greens. That kind of stuff just takes a lot of time, and I don't want to do that just yet until I know I'm happy with the actual surroundings. Finally, we'll just look down the back here with this new path. This is, of course, a new sightline for the ride that we didn't have before, which is very nice. We also have one up here on the bridge itself into the main dining area, or the main Grand Hall dining area. Now, I don't currently have much in there built up. There obviously needs to be railings here, all sorts of little things like that. But here's that other angle. I think this is also a spectacular one to look out at. It kind of reminds me of looking at Velocicoaster from its little bridge. This is where our main hall dining will be, or grand hall dining will be. We'll have a little queuing section here. We'll then loop back, turn in, and then here's where the actual hall will be. This might be a little small right now, but I do plan on expanding it just a bit, get some more seating area, get a bit of a bigger kitchen. Of course, all will be done through the mobile ordering. As much as I don't like it, it's here to stay. We'll still have a counter, same as the steakhouse still has its possibility of a counter for people who just can't do the mobile ordering. However, I think with that, that is it for today's episode. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed building it. And until the next one, cheers.